There's levels to this. It's like a video game. That's how I think about business. So often I have people come to me and they want to be at the black belt level. They want to do webinars in a certain sophisticated fashion where all this crazy thing is happening all at once, and they never even sold anything in their life. And so for that client, I always tell them done is better than better. You just need to ship it, get it out the door, and then we'll make the optimizations along the way, and then we'll level up. And forget webinars for a second. The real lesson here is that there's levels to it. So if you start on the wrong level, you will be guaranteed to fail. And which is frustrating because you could listen to a guru, you could pay top dollar for a course, and if you're on the wrong frequency, even if you do it right, you fail. So you have to calibrate to the level that you're at. Now, here's what's really interesting to it, because this is why the money-making stuff is so good if you do it right, but it's so nuanced. This client that came to me, he has sold 4 million books. And what he is doing now is branching out and trying to use webinars in his business. He's been very successful in all other facets of his business that he's focused on, and he wants to add webinars to it, which is a very smart move. A pro in this business is not satisfied by what they were good at yesterday. They're hungry for what they can be good at tomorrow, and there's always more things that you can get better at. This is why the entrepreneurial journey is so exciting. And so he's starting to add webinars into his business. Now, what he's doing is the following. He's trying to use webinars to sell a live event in the future at a price point that's about $5,000. It's a little less than $5,000. And there's levels to this. There are 10-foot hurdles, and then there are 1-foot hurdles. And in business, what we're trying to do is step over the 1-foot hurdles instead of jump over the 10-foot hurdles. That's much harder. So if we can find environments where we can sell easier and make more money, I'm all for it. I don't want to get better at poker. I want to find worse poker players than me and win my money that way. So first of all, the problem that I told him with this is that live events are one of the hardest things to sell on a webinar. I said if you could put people in a $200 live event and then sell them the 5K live event, that is way more likely. Or if you can go to somebody else's live event, someone else's, right? Not yours, then you can sell your live event one way, some way. That's going to be more effective and more easier with webinars. By the way, the higher the price point in this scenario, the more likely you need a personal touch. So that's a little axiom for you. Higher price point, higher prices, higher touch. So one of the reasons I like webinars is because I could sell to 1 million people, 100,000 people, 100 people, or 10 people with essentially the same amount of effort. There's one of me, there's all of them. I'm pitching and selling to everybody simultaneously. And when it comes to the objection handling phase of the webinar, I'm handling different questions in the line. Like, what's your sales question? What's yours one? What's yours one? What's yours one? And I'm like, bang, 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 bang. Very powerful, very effective. But it's largely impersonal. I'm speaking to many people all at the same time. And so generally those work for lower price points. Not too low, but not too high. So a higher price point equals a higher touch. So the second suggestion I gave to this gentleman is I said, if at all you were trying to sell a live event, you should do it with a phone call. So the webinar would get them to book a phone call, and then the phone call would help close the sale. So this is like a handoff situation. Now every plus has a minus, and vice versa. Every minus has a plus. So smoking is probably the dumbest thing you could do. It will probably kill you much sooner than anything else you can do, and you pay other people, big rich corporations, to kill you sooner, right? That's the minus. But you only do that because it has a plus. For most people that smoke, it's the only time of day that they meditate. Deep breath in, good breath out. It's the only time they step out from the routine and reset, right? So every minus has a plus, every plus has a minus. So a book a phone call, the plus is it's a higher probability of the sales closing. The minus is now you got to have a guy on the phone. Now he's got to talk to somebody, and you got to work out some of the logistics. There are different problems of different natures. The logistical problems in that situation, they're more quantity-based problems. There's a lot of smaller ones of those. Whereas learning how to sell on a webinar straight to a 5K live event is a big problem. So there's very few people who can solve that problem. So these are problems, but they're smaller problems. So I suggested that to him. I said, maybe this is a better approach. Here's the other thing about a live event that I told him. I said, the problem with a live event is you're selling something in the distant future. So you're going to pay me a lot of money today to get something that will benefit you maybe 3 months from now when you come to the seminar room. And I said, this is really challenging when you're selling on webinars. The ideal thing you would sell on a webinar is something where they can get some sort of immediate payoff. So a webinar purchase equals immediate result, as much as you possibly can. So interestingly enough, because there's levels to this, I said the best thing to do if you're going to sell a live event on the webinar is make it free. When you buy X, you're going to get a free ticket to my live event. X is the thing they can immediately get a result with, and then it can set up the live event. So make the live event free, but that's for my super advanced folks out there that are listening right now. And then he says to me, he goes, Jason, you keep talking about how this isn't the right thing to sell on a webinar. He says, what would be the right thing to sell on a webinar? And I said, that's the question of all questions. So come closer, listen up very carefully. I'm going to break down for you the exact model that I gave him. And it looks like this. Okay, so what is a webinar primarily? A webinar is information. So what you do in a webinar is you set the stage, you set the scene, you get people connected to this idea that you're going to talk about in 45 to 60 minutes. You educate on a particular topic. So if you're using a webinar to educate or to provide information, then the natural, easiest thing to sell initially, level 1, is what? It is information. Basically the close, and I use this close for many years, it goes like this. Did you enjoy our time together today? Yes. Would you like to spend more time together today? Of course I would. Okay, great. Well, we can only do so much in 45 minutes together on one webinar. If we were to do a series of webinars, imagine what we could accomplish. Wouldn't you want to know more about that? Of course I would, Jason. Well, it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you, yada, yada, yada. You get it, right? So it's the free sample. It's the hit signal on the radio that sells the whole album. That's what we do here. It's the easiest sell. Now, every plus has a minus, right? And this is what I said to him. I said, if you're going to sell an information product on a webinar, you're typically only going to get between $300 to $1,000 on a sale. Now, what I like about these levels is if you can't find a model that is successfully doing what you're wanting to do, that's scary. That means you're on a higher level or you're on a different planet. The worst thing that can happen is somebody comes up to me and says, Jason, nobody's ever done this before. I said, oh my God, this is probably going to end in disaster. There's a reason why nobody's done it before. Or they've done it before, they died, and they've never left documentation. So you think they haven't done it before because they don't exist anymore. So very rarely does nobody's done this before translate into awesome. That's like the toppest level that you could possibly get at. Okay, so everybody's done this. It's been done to death. Selling an info product on a webinar that's information rich for a mid-ticket-ish offer. In most markets, this is going to be mid-ticket. And I actually encouraged him to sell at a $300 price point. And then I gave him a framework, because there's levels to this. So this is the most basic framework. It's not the best one. It's not the most optimized. It's not the one that's going to make you the most money in the future, but it's the one that's going to get it done and get you calibrated and moved in the right direction. Here's what I said to them. I go, for any topic that you can teach, and we had a topic for his webinar. It was a topic he was already using. It was a really great topic. I said, let's use the 4x4 model. What's the 4x4 model? 4x4 model looks like this. There are 4 different features related to the main topic. So whatever the product is going to be, think, what are the 4 biggest leverages? What are the 4 biggest levers? Levers 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is a little interesting thing. It's called the law of the vital few. No matter what you're trying to solve for, a few inputs will account for a majority of the outputs. And so we can take any topic, and if I say focus on only 4 things and just 4 things, what are 4 of the most important things to focus on? If you create an info product around that, it'll be better than almost anybody's. And so this was the model that I gave him. I said, what you're going to sell is a 4-week, initially live, virtual coaching program, virtual group coaching. So the webinar is a group coaching. Think about it. This is free group coaching right here. And then you're going to sell them more of the same. And you're going to sell them a 4-week program at $300. So that's less than $100 per session. Now, each session is going to focus on something that can stand alone on its own. This is very important. I've learned all of this the hard way. So don't pay for my mistakes again yourself. If you make it step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, everybody, you lose 80% on step 1. You lose the rest almost on step 2. By step 3, session 3, nobody wants to show up anymore. So make 4 things that stand alone. This is what I told them. So if they watch any of these 4 things, in and of itself, it's self-contained. Now they can connect to each other, sure, but make them good on their own. Make them tactical. So I'm not a huge fan of tactics to run a business or to, solve a major problem, but tactics get people moving in the right direction. They start the process of momentum. So I said make it tactical, things that they can do and get an immediate result with, a quick payoff for. It might not be a huge one, but it gets them moving in the right direction. And then I said lastly, focus them around the 4 biggest objections or excuses that somebody would have related to not moving forward on this topic. So we focus on the constraint. Okay, what are the 4 major reasons that people would not do this thing, not buy this thing? And each content kills one of those reasons. So, in my business, one of the reasons that people don't start information products, for example, is they say, I don't have any expertise. So one of my weeks could be the no expert formula for selling info products. Another issue that people will have that will stop them from making info products is they'll say it takes too long. So I have the one sitting info product formula. So see how these are killing the objections? So they're framed as training, and they're tactical, which is fantastic, but they also eliminate excuses that would stop people from purchasing. So I gave him this model, and I said, you're going to sell it this way. So 4 weeks, based on these parameters on your webinar, here are the 3 beautiful things. 1, you will pre-sell. So initially, you're going to do it live. So you make the money before you create the product. This is great. By the way, audiences, especially your best audiences, they love this. Nobody wants to watch the game on TV as much as they want to attend it live. And so for your existing audience, they get to be part of the experience of creating the live product. So I said you'll pre-sell it, and you'll see what people resonate with. So if you launch it again in the future and want to improve it, you'll know what to improve upon. So that's one of the most beautiful things about this. The second thing that happens is you create the recordings that you can then sell in the future. So typically with these cycles 3 to 4 times a year, after you do the launch initially live and record it live, which is the easiest way to create an info product, then you have an asset. And then you can do the webinar and you just change very few things about the webinar. Instead of saying the class is going to start next Thursday, you say as soon as you sign up, you're going to get session 1 immediately, stuff like that. That's the second most beautiful thing. Third most beautiful thing is you'll probably sell more live events. And this was one of the models that I gave him. I said, here's what happens when people sign up. You say, here's the good news. Because you've just purchased this product, you have a $300 credit or a $500 credit or a $1,000 credit, whatever you want to give them, off of a discounted of a future live event. And you have that for the duration of this live coaching program or the duration of these 4 sessions or these 4 weeks or whatever. So you give them an expiring discounted coupon to the live event. This circuitous, to use a $5 word, this model is more effective at selling live events. So ironically, you would think send somebody to a webinar to sell a live event would be the most probable way to sell the most live event tickets. I'm suggesting he sends somebody to a webinar to buy a program, a low-ticket program, to then on the back of that program sell a live event. And he'll sell a lot more that way. But there's levels to this. And we often forget this, because this is one of the things that I told this client. I said, here's the good news. The more of these live coachings that you do, the more you will have assets. You will create more programs. Those programs can then be used as bonuses when you do sell live events. I said the second thing is if you do a lot of these programs, you'll find one has a higher response rate than all the rest combined. So instead of trying to guess what to optimize for, you let your market tell you, and then you back the one that they already like the most. So I said that's a great thing too when you do this. But the third thing, and I think this is most important, you get your reps in. You get better at the webinar itself. You get better at setting up the offer. You get better at the funnel for it. And then you level up along the way. My trick when building these models and helping you build these models is how do we level up and make money at the same time? Not how do we plant a tree, wait 5 years, and then eat the fruit off of it, because we'll be dead before then. How do we create a model where we get positive feedback and get some short-term results, and we can roll them up into bigger results? And so this is the lesson for you. Easiest way to create an info product, by the way, 4x4. 4 sessions, 1 to 2 hours per week, done live initially on the 4 tactical things that can get as quick of a result as possible related to the 4 major excuses that would stop somebody from moving forward. If you got that, you're going to make a lot of money. So if you had to create a 4x4 product, what would yours be? Go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll see you on the next video.